Let's hope we're not in a graveyard, because we may be menaced by some spooky alien ghosts. Probably not. Did you ever have one of those creative writing assignments in school where you have to come up with a short story, and what you inevitably do is say the word or phrase "and then" a lot? So I went outside, and then I met this dog, and then he bit my leg, and then I got rabies, and then I died. You know what I mean? The "and then" story, where it feels like a word salad. It feels like it just runs on forever. Okay, apparently the writers for Discovery never learned their lesson from that little assignment. This story is starting to feel like a "and then" story. We found a gravity anomaly, and then we went inside it, and then we got data, and then we went back inside it again, and then we tried to destroy it, and then we couldn't destroy it, and then we went to where the thing came from, and then we found a planet, and then we got sick. Discovery Season 4, everybody. This episode wasn't horrifically bad. I actually think Picard had it beat, though. For what it's worth, Picard Season 2, Episode 1, I think is better than this one. This episode of Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Rosetta Stone. We are nearing the end, and you would be forgiven for feeling that we've accomplished nothing. In many ways, we have accomplished nothing. Unless you consider wasting my time and achievement. The saddest and also funniest joke is that I'm now comfortably willing to say Season 4 is the best season of this show. Although it feels like a TOS episode that has been stretched into a 10-plus hour long film, completely unnecessarily. This episode, I'm thinking it's not as good as the last few Discovery episodes, because this one is rife with the Discovery scene. You've all seen it. And yes, it makes its way into other shows that are on the periphery of Discovery, like Picard. You've seen this scene before, right? Pretend I'm some other person other than Michael. Michael, I've seen what you're going to do, and I have to disagree. I think you're making a mistake here. It's my feeling that the gravity of the situation is such that we should have done this my way. Now pretend I'm Michael. Well, you see, it doesn't matter because we're doing it this way. Okay? So I understand your concern, but we're doing it the way I was originally going to do it, okay? Now pretend I'm the other person. Oh, alright. I'm sorry. Although I still disagree. You can go ahead and do it the way you were going to do it. And then Michael says, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'll talk to you later after this mission is done. There's the Discovery scene. It happens like a million times this episode and a million times in this season. I think we're just stretching. I think we're just playing the clock here, guys. We're playing the clock. We're like a lazy worker just waiting to punch the clock and go home. I'm just here getting paid by the hour and I'm wasting time. Sleeping on the job. Sleeping on my desk. Sleeping at the control panel. As I often do. But that's beside the point. Let's break down Discovery Season 4. Rosetta Stone. And for those of you who don't know, although I believe it is explained in the episode, the Rosetta Stone is a archaeological discovery that allowed for the translation of ancient Earth texts, that being Egyptian script. Okay? So in the context of this episode, we're referring to something that helped us translate something else. That being the language and cultural context of the 10C, the name given to the aliens we're trying to find. So, with that out of the way, what all went on here? Well, I will say this episode is straightforward. In that regard, it does have Picard Season 2, Episode 1 on the ropes a little, because Picard Season 2, Episode 1 had this strange idea to show things out of order. It's all very confusing and annoying and makes it hard to review, but this episode is a little bit more straightforward, such that B comes after A and C comes after B. I'm sure you can imagine. So a very standard method of storytelling. As always, we're playing catch up at the beginning, showing what happened last time. The Discovery is now on the other side of the galactic barrier. We're outside the galaxy, as it were. And interestingly, Book's ship has seemed to have gotten through the galactic barrier with no challenge whatsoever. We just skipped over it. At the end of the last episode, unless I missed something or I'm losing my mind, it felt like Book's ship was on the inner edge of the galactic barrier and had to go through next, and it felt like they were going to be so late to the party that basically the season would be done before they got through the barrier. Discovery spent mostly a whole episode trying to get through the barrier, and now Book's ship gets through without any on-screen fanfare whatsoever. It was just, we're meant to believe that it just got through fine. That's a little strange. And if you think about it, if we're willing to allow Book's ship to go through without showing what happened and without missing a beat in the story, why didn't we skip over it with Discovery? Think about it. What did we learn going through the barrier? Nothing, really. Many things in this season's plot are completely pointless. In fact, I would be curious if somebody could take this entire season and cut it down into a pretty decent 3-hour-long Star Trek movie. Of course, it won't hold a candle to any of the TOS films, but it might stand up against the next-gen ones, depending on who you ask. I'll leave it at that. So we found this plant on the other side of the barrier, and it looks like it's pretty close to where the 10C originates, so we're going to go down there and maybe we'll find some dead bodies. Maybe we'll find a big derelict donut ship that looked like it had a bite taken out, and we can go in there and get infected with strange alien parasites. Doesn't that sound fun? That's not what happens, but from here on it does get a little bit more interesting. We go down to the surface, and yes, we are discovering a strange new world and a new civilization, and we're boldly going where no one's gone before, so you're getting points for that. We're doing what we should be doing every episode, but seem to fall worryingly short of. We're down on a planet, finding new things, discovering things about this different civilization and their different physiology mainly. So, mysteriously, we show our characters walking through a blue puddle of something. Those characters being Saru, Detmer, Michael, and Hugh. They make a point of showing it, but interestingly, the characters never made a point of avoiding it or scanning it first. You'd think maybe they would think of that. I mean, we're technically outside the galaxy. Who knows what's going on out here? And according to Hugh in this episode, at least the laws of physics still apply out here, although I don't know what reason he was given to assume they wouldn't. So, we find large bones. Very mysterious. Are these bones belonging to the 10C? We don't know, but they're kind of assuming that they are. Again, this episode is rife with fascinating leaps in logic and a lot of assumptions, leading to some fun conclusions and also some not so fun conclusions, as in with regards to the potential villainy of the 10C race. Villain. I mean, shades of the crystalline entity are appearing here. Is the crystalline entity a villain? We don't really know. It's just an animal. Is the 10C really a villain if they don't know what they do? Or are they a villain if they do know what they do and then continue to do it anyway? As in they are destroying sentient life inside our galaxy. Sarah brings that up at one point. Not that it matters, because it is, as I said, an assumption. Okay? So, we go down into a cavern. We're looking around, and might I say, these EV suits are awful. I mean, your mileage may vary, aesthetics being what they are, subjective. These EV suits look childish. They look like a toy. They look like plastic, and there's lots of blinking light things and light bars, whatever. Maybe they don't blink so much. Forgive me. But to me, they look atrocious. Ugh. Why is it that we need to be lit up like a cheap toy? You know those toys where they would just stick a battery in it and you press a button and that was an excuse for some kind of functionality of the toy, even though it made it no more fun, the fact that it lit up. Yuck. Anyway, that's beside the point. My feelings on the EV suits have nothing to do with the story, although they have to do with the visual feel of it, and that does factor into a review. We are in what appears to be a place of worship or a grave or what have you, and you would think that these creatures are gigantic, although I haven't been able to 100% prove it yet, because this is a large area. We're inside a geological stratum of some sort, and we're being affected by a psionic interference. Our characters' brains are going nuts. First Saru, and then Hugh, and then Michael. And we're feeling fear, and this is the first time Saru has felt fear in a long time. We're wandering around. What's going on? There's monsters everywhere. But not really. It's some kind of a defense mechanism, perhaps. And we find that it is present in the blue goop or blue dust that we stepped on. Why did we think to step on the mysterious-looking puddle? I don't know, but it has affected our nervous system in a strange way. So once we learn that, we realize that these pockets of dust are actually like a pheromone communication system. And some dust makes us feel fear, some dust makes us feel happy. So we find a cachet of more dust and we touch it and we allow it through the biofilter of our suits. And we discover the feeling of love. And from that, we carelessly extrapolate that this is some kind of nursery, and that the feeling of love is that which you would feel between you and your children, perhaps. So for that reason, this is now a nursery, I guess, and not a graveyard. Okay? Let's hope we're not in a graveyard, because we may be menaced by some spooky alien ghosts. Probably not. And then we get back to the ship with all our newfound data again. What is it with Star Trek lately and trying to find data? And no, I'm not referring to the character. So we're going to send down more teams down there to learn what's going on. And we have achieved cultural context. We now have a better grasp of how to translate what it is they're saying. And perhaps we can collect these pheromones, copy them, make more, to explain what we're thinking, using their own methods of communication. Perhaps not the same quality or resolution, but we can try. So we've made a tiny step forward. That's our A-plot. I kind of liked it. We discovered some things. It was quaint. It was novel, and it was a little bit poignant. It wasn't really saying so much philosophically, but I kind of had fun, and that's a lot for the Star Trek Discovery. Our B-plot is not uninteresting and not super uncompelling, but it involved Tarka and Book. Good characters, I think. They've essentially attached their ship to the underside of Discovery. I was thinking kind of like how those parasites you'll see living on the bottom of sharks' bellies, if you've ever seen that. And to do this, they needed to hack the Discovery's programming, the computer, to allow them to breach the perimeter close enough to attach to the bottom of the ship and hitch a ride, essentially, to the 10C so they can enact their plan, which is to violently destroy the 10C in some way. Again, assumptions, but we've set up that Tarka is a very smart person, so I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt in this case. Normally I would be saying, wow, this is contrived, this is hokey, for a character to come up with all these crazy concepts, but we've established that he's very smart, so we're gonna ride with it. and Tarka and Book are now on a better footing with each other, because as you see in the past episode, Tarka is now fully open with Book. Tarka is now vulnerable. He revealed his past to him. And once you do that, you're now brothers in arms, as it were. So, no more fighting and a lot more doing. Our plan is to sneak into Discovery and mess around with the computer so that we can attach our ship back onto Discovery and hitch a ride. So, Tarka devises a patch for the Discovery computer, but they need to get inside to install it. So we're going to do some subterfuge. We're going to sneak in, Tarka and Book, all stealthy-like. And while they're doing this, with lots of wonderful Jeffries Tube action, I might add, Book gets the bright idea to complicate the mission further by contacting General Endoy, or Endoy. You'll recall one of the characters who voted in favor of Book and Tarka's plan to attack the Tensi earlier in the season. So Book, possibly correctly, is interpreting that this character may be on our side. If I find her, I may be able to convince her to give us some insider help so we can get a guy in the inside. Wouldn't that be beneficial? Book thinks the risk is worth it, and he contacts Endoy A and explains their situation, and they do manage to get General Endoy on their side. What does this mean? Book and Tarka are now getting the inside deets on what's going on with our characters' movements in the A-plot. So Book finds out Michael's okay, and that's A-okay, because they're in love, as you remember. But there's a snag. Tarka does install the patch to attach Book's ship to Discovery. However, he is caught. He is caught by Reno. Remember that character? That character is pretty much gone for this whole season. Remember how Reno was gonzo? Well, now she's back. And she caught Tarka. And I was invested by this. I was scared. I was wondering what was going to happen. So I guess you could say the episode was effective in that regard. And at the very end, we had a well-done ending, I think. It was actually kind of ambiguous. And I'm unironically interested in what's coming next. Book returns to his ship, and at the behest of Tarka, who we know was just caught by Reno, they walk a few steps. Reno coughs and says nothing like coming home to a hostage, something like that. And we see Reno in a shield bubble, and all three characters looking worried and disturbed. So who's being held hostage? Did Tarka outwit Reno and take Reno hostage on Book's ship, or did Reno take Tarka hostage, ask Tarka to direct her to Book's ship, and then tell Tarka to make sure Book comes back so Reno can catch both of them at the same time? Who's capturing who? If you look at it, it's not so obvious. However, maybe I missed something and I'm just stupid, and it really is obvious that Reno took Tarka hostage, or it really is obvious that Tarka took Reno hostage, or vice versa. Did I get that wrong? Regardless, the ending had me a little bit compelled. So, the A-plot sounded good and the B-plot sounded good. So, from where do my complaints arise? Well, they come from the general feeling of the episode, the tone, and the useless Discovery-style scenes. The Discovery scene, I explained it earlier. Useless emotional scenes where we're discussing how we're feeling, what we're doing, how we're getting on. Most inexplicably, the scene at the end where Michael and Hugh share some type of beverage. And I'm just thinking, you would cut this scene in a movie in a heartbeat. And not only that, we're sharing a beverage as if Hugh had a really hard day. I don't think he did. I thought this feels like an average day in Starfleet to me. You know, strange new worlds being what they are. Also, Dr. Harai said, don't screw it up like that. And as our main characters were trudging off into their mission. And Dr. Harai got chewed out by the president for saying that. I took it as endearing. When he said, "Don't screw up like that," all the characters were shocked and took it like he didn't believe in them. And I was just thinking, I thought that he came off as endearing and trying to be lighthearted. I thought he was trying to add some levity to the situation to make them feel better. But all the characters took this immediately as some type of and as some type of way to impugn their character or their ability to complete this mission. I didn't believe that at all. And then the president has the gall to interrupt him playing a game to tell him not to do that. And I swear it's like a 5-year-old wrote this. It's like something you would come up with when you were a baby. And then she comes and helps him with his crossword puzzle and then turns around and the answer is obligation. Get it? It's so stupid when you see it. It's so dumb. Dr. Harai learns his lesson and that he shouldn't try to be happy and nice and nonchalant about things, even though it's not illegal to have a different personality or a different way of speaking. And people have said a lot worse in Discovery than that, believe me. But he's being raked over the coals for it by the president. And then she solves his crossword puzzle, the answer being obligation. Give me a break. What is this? Is this a PBS educational cartoon for children? Where I'm supposed to learn how to be nice and happy and good and, well, kind of like Star Trek was. But I guess what I'm saying is that this is out of place for Discovery. It's a good thing to be nice and happy and encouraged and willing to encourage people in a nice way. However, we need not come down on someone for trying to add playful levity to a desperate situation, which is what I believe Dr. Harai did. Okay, you may think different if you watch this episode. We shared a scene with Reno and Adira where Adira feels the need to ask Reno how to get closer to Detmer because she idolizes Detmer in some way because she's so calm, cool, and collected. I didn't think that because I had the luxury of seeing what happened in the beginning of Season 3. And wisely, Reno brings that up too. She says to Adira, you wouldn't think that if you saw her right after we came out of the wormhole to this timeline. So Reno is, in many ways, the voice of the audience, I think, in this. Which is fascinating. And we should do more with that, instead of just letting the character die on the vine, we'll say again. Also, you'll note that Detmer was the only person not affected by the strange Fearomone dust on the away mission. But it's not because she was tough, it's because she didn't touch the goop. Of course, Michael steals her victory and says, wait, could it be the dust? So again, a victory that could have been cool for Detmer was stolen by Michael. It would be great if Detmer came up with that idea. That, wait, maybe it's the dust. I would have liked to have seen that. I think we're being robbed of character victories for characters like Awashikin, Hugh, Bryce, he's gone now, I think, and Detmer, obviously, in this case. I think Michael should be giving an assist, not getting the goal herself, if you know what I mean. So visually, this episode, we did go down to an alien world. We did see alien catacombs, and we did see Jeffrey's tubes. I like that. Visually, it's not a feast, and it's not a banquet, but it's a little bit better than a TV dinner. Music. I didn't hear anything. Was there music in this episode? I'd forgive you if you didn't hear anything. I was listening, and it just felt like I was in an empty room. listening to dry dialogue that could have been enhanced with an interesting musical score, but was not. Philosophically, in the A plot, nothing really there. Philosophically, in the B plot, nothing really of consequence there at all. This is mostly just treading water. We're mostly just moving the plot along. If you watch it and you think different, that's fantastic. I hope you enjoyed it. But for me, this episode was a little bland. Again, worse than Picard Season 2, Episode 1. Which, by the way, these episodes aired in the same day. Hooray for me. I'm going to have to go with 5.5 for this episode. It's better than nothing, and it's a little bit worse than the last Star Trek Discovery episode, I will say. Your mileage may vary. But I'm Lieutenant Mark, and I need to skedaddle. So I'll see you guys next week when we get another 2 episodes jammed together. I'm sure that's going to be just wonderful. See you later.